Hey, welcome to the SMAARTIST Podcast. I am your host, Steven Anderson. So, I saw this post on Instagram the other day, and it talked about a very interesting idea. It was this idea of something called the gap. They referred to it as the gap. Now, what they were saying essentially was that the gap is between you and what you appreciate of art that you see. You know, as you're scrolling through Instagram, you see lots of stuff that you like, you know, things that you look at and you think, I want to be able to do that. you know, like that's what I aspire to, you know. You feel like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. But then the gap comes in where you have that deficit of where you can't do those things. You know, you can't, maybe you don't have the skill level, or you don't have the speed, or you don't have the level of finish, or whatever it may be that's creating this gap between you and the professional artists you see on Instagram. I love Pasadena. The concept is that when you're trying to first learn a new skill, there's the appreciation for the craft itself and those that perform the craft, you know, the things that you want to be able to do, and the skill that you have in being able to do that same thing. They were comparing it to artists in particular, and saying to be mindful of the gap, but not to compare yourselves to professional artists. Rather, compare yourself to yourself from yesterday. And I feel like that's a very dangerous mentality. I feel like that's a very dangerous thing to be telling somebody to do. It's important to be able to measure your progress. I feel like it's important to notice, you know, hey, I'm better than I was in high school. Or, hey, I'm better than, better than I used to be. You know, I learned something, I've grown. But I think the danger comes in where you are constantly looking back at where you were and not fixing your sight on what is ahead. It's a hard mentality to deal with. You know, it's really not a healthy mindset. The reason is that the more that you're just looking back, you're not able to set goals moving forward. So let me see. Here's kind of an example that I want to be able to share with you. Rafael Garcetti is someone that I look up to tremendously. Absolutely love his stuff. He has this great capacity to whip out something that looks extremely finished and beautiful, beautifully rendered in a very small amount of time. Another artist, Luo Lirong. Absolutely phenomenal portrayal of the human figure and fabric and cloth in motion. I love that. I think if I'm wanting to have a job and be successful in this industry, if I'm wanting to work with the people I look up to artistically, it's important for me to be competitive with these people. Okay, and something like that's not going to happen overnight. Don't get stuck on this thought of like, I have to be perfect now. It's a matter of the little steps along the way and the things that you got to do periodically to become who you want to be. It is absolutely paramount with goals like this to keep this type of understanding that you have to be competitive. You have to be shooting to be as good or better than the people that you look up to. Okay. It should not be depressing or discouraging to think that that's what you need to be shooting for and that you're not there. But to the contrary, it should be inspiring. It should be uplifting. It should be like invigorating. Like it should be like yeah, let's do this, you know, sort of thing. You know, get yourself pumping. Okay, so yeah, look at the skill level of those people and then learn from them. It's important to look and see what it is that they do and be able to kind of think about what it is that they're doing to make their piece successful. So I'm looking at like examples of Rafael Grisetti in particular. You think about Raphael and how he gets these really cool finished pieces. He's not doing anything extremely complex or it's not something that nobody knows how to do. It's something that he knows how to do, and he's just applying these basics very well. And it's extremely powerful to use simple tricks and just use them well. So if you look at what he does, he'll use things like he'll use UV unwrapping, and he'll use surface noise, and then he'll use different lighting passes and material passes and those sorts of little simple things that anyone knows how to do. He combines them all together in Photoshop, and he's able to use blending modes and whatnot to make sure that he gets different type of lights and different types of layer intensities and things like that to help give you the impression of a final rendered piece. And like I said, simple things, and these are things that I look up to in him, really super powerful, simple but powerful techniques to be able to get a final piece. And that's something that I want to be able to do more of in my own work, is get better compositing and better final images in my own work. And so I'm not looking at Raphael as like a shoot, I'll never be Rafael Grisetti, and it's true, I'll never be Raphael. But I can look at what it is that he does, and I can look at how I can apply that to my world of what I do. Most of what I do is all stylized stuff. He does a lot more realistic type stuff. A lot of that's because of his background in advertising, back when he was first starting off, and then now as an art director at Santa Monica Studios. But you get to this point where you see these different skills, these different trades, these different techniques, and you figure out how you can apply them. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so ask yourselves questions like, what's going on? What are they doing? How are they getting from point A to point B? What are the elements that they're putting into their work? That's the gap. That's the gap that you want to focus on. That's the gap you want to be aware of. It's easier for us to assess where we are in our development and how we can better achieve our development goals if we're looking at our progress in that sort of way of where we want to go and how we can get there. What is it that we're not doing that somebody else is doing that we enjoy seeing, enjoy watching? Okay, so as I put my work online, okay, that's what I'm doing, is I'm asking myself what my gap is. What can I do to better my presentation? So the gap is not between the you of right now and the you of yesterday. It's the you of who you want to become, and that's where I want to put the emphasis. Okay, it's the gap between you and those that you want to emulate, those you want to become, those who you want to work with. Emulation is a powerful way for us to be able to become better. So try looking at the things that you enjoy, the things that you look up to. Try figuring out what makes it tick and makes it work well, and then figure out how you can apply that. Figure out how you can make your work shine in the same ways. If you think about this gap, it's not void of nothing. It's not completely a completely empty canvas if you don't want it to be. If you think of a goal that you have, say there's a very particular piece that I want to emulate, something that I want to copy in essence. If I want to be able to make a 3D, like a statue of something in 3D of a 2D concept, and it's a really cool concept, and I don't feel like my skills are quite there yet, I got to go through and look and say, okay, I've got a ladder. Okay, instead of looking at a gap of horizontal distance, trying to covering that distance, I'm looking at height, I'm looking at growth. Okay, so think about a ladder to be able to get up there. What are the steps on that ladder to be able to get you to that final piece, to get you to that goal that you want to achieve? Okay, so one of the things that you can do is think about those questions. Think about, what is it that they're doing? What is it that makes it successful? What are the elements that I like about that piece? And then what are the tools that I know? How can I use what I know to be able to get there? How can I look up? How can I research and develop skills and techniques to be able to get there? Very simple things, very simple questions to ask yourself, and very simple ways to get there. This idea of dwelling on the past and always comparing yourself to where you were versus comparing yourself to where you want to be, it's kind of like throwing down an anchor in a boat and wondering why you're not moving forward. It's just kind of a tricky thing, or it's like trying to navigate moving forward, driving a car down the interstate while you're looking backwards. It's like it's a lot more efficient if you look forward, if you look at what it is that you're trying to do, look at where it is that you are going, rather than being focused on where you were. Hope that makes sense. So if I want to move forward, I'm going to want to paddle forward. I'm going to want to look forward. I'm going to want to keep my goal in mind. So, one of the things that I've done in the past is put, I've got a billboard with not a billboard, a pinboard, a cork board with all these different just stick-it notes. They're not anything fancy, but they have little things written on them of things that I want to be able to accomplish, things that I want to get better at, things that I need to be able to do, or things I need to get done, whatever it is. And as I get them done, or as I get close, or whatever, I have different ways of marking them, or I just pull them down entirely. I'm putting up new ones constantly, and I always have this board in a place that it's easy to see. I have it somewhere where it's easy for me to monitor my progress. And I feel like that's just a very simple thing to do, but also a very important thing as I'm going through and trying to figure out how I can progress as an artist or as a professional. So anyway, those are my thoughts. That's the gap. So be aware more of the gap between where you are, where you want to be, how you want to grow. Think about the ladder. The steps that you need to take to be able to get to that end goal. Don't just compare yourself to yourself from yesterday, because it's too narrow-minded. Okay. You can grow much more easily if you keep moving forward and looking forward and making goals based on what you want to achieve rather than what you have already achieved or haven't achieved. It's like you want to look and see ahead. I invite you to keep that in mind next time you go scrolling through Instagram. Next time you go thinking about personal projects, think about projects that can help move you forward to accomplish the things that you want to be able to achieve. Okay, well, those are my thoughts for you today. Okay, I'll leave you to it. Okay, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Smartest out.